Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society, bringing you our nightly update regarding the tropical basins across the world. And we've got a few interesting features out here this evening. One being this area of low pressure off of the east coast of the United States. That looks kind of impressive. Could even be subtropical in nature with some of the way that the convection is firing there on the northern side. There's nothing from the National Hurricane Center on it, and we'll continue to monitor it. Some stormy weather associated with it, obviously. And our area of interest out here into the main development region of the tropical Atlantic, we now have Invest 92L. So, an Invest designation has been classified to this disturbance, and we now have spaghetti plots on it as well. And also, last but not least, Tropical Storm Mario out there. We'll get to that much later. It's no threat to land, but we will cover it. All right, looking at this afternoon's tropical outlook from the National Hurricane Center, we now again have Invest 92L. Currently, it has a 50% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 90% chance of development over the next 7 days. So it is very high on its developmental chances. And this one is different from the ones that we've seen recently because there's quite a bit of shower and thunderstorm activity associated with it. If we come to the end here, all these little bright white spots that you see out here associated with Invest 92L, those are thunderstorms. That is convection, and it definitely has some rotation and some spin, although it is still remains a broad area of low pressure. It is definitely beginning to fire off quite a bit of convection during the overnight hours. As the sun is going down, it's really going to start to ramp up. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what it does in the morning. Now, here are our 18Z spaghetti plots on Invest 92L. As you could see here, pretty much all of them, halves A being a little bit of a westerly outlier, but all of them bring it well to the north and then off to the west, well away from the islands. So this is a good scenario, and though it has Bermuda potentially pretty much right in its tracks. It could turn beforehand, and that's what we hope for, but it's all going to depend upon the intensity of it over the next, say 72 hours. What can it get to? And we'll kind of show exactly why. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the ensembles and we're going to take a look at what all of the different, well, not all of them, but the majority of the reliable models and what their tracks are. Now, as you can see, this goes out the next 10 days. We're actually going to pull this back to 7. And as you can see, and then run it forward just, half a day at a time here, there are only a couple outliers here that keep it real weak and then allow it to get a little further to the west. Maybe a little bit of disturbed weather pulling up from the Caribbean, but for the most part, it looks to be Bermuda is going to be the one that really has to keep a very close watch on this upcoming, Invest 92L. If we compare that with the Euro AI model. Now, yesterday, if we go back to yesterday, we had this small little cluster and spent a little bit of time here in the Caribbean. If we look at it today, we don't have what we had yesterday, which is a good sign that we're losing that signal. Again, like we always tell everybody, you watch for the trends. When the very next run lost that signal, the 0Z really picked back up that signal. The 6Z had it the 12Z didn't. So the models are kind of going back and forth with the potentiality of, future development of a wave that happens to track through behind 92L. Right now, with this particular run, we do not have it, which is a good sign. But being that the run before did have it, the run before that had it, and then it didn't, and then it did, it's just something that we're going to have to keep a watch on. Getting into comparing it to the GEFS. As we could see, the GEFS also has a similar look at the signal of what we've seen with the rest of them. Yes, there are a couple outliers that creep off a little bit to the west, but they do not make impact with the United States. Just we need to monitor it, but for the most part, the majority of the guidance really wants to keep this away from everybody and hopefully turns it into a fish storm. The GFS is kind of back on potential development down here into the Western Caribbean and drawing northward with some type of disturbed weather. It's still, as you could see, we don't really have the corroboration from the other models. There's a couple little lines here and there, but same with the GFS. So it's just something that we'll keep a watch on. Jumping over to the Google DeepMind. Now, the 12Z is quite different from what we saw earlier this morning when we checked them. So I'm going to take this out 5 days. As you could see, we have a very large cluster of potential storm tracks here associated with Invest 92L. As you could see, some of them may creep a little bit further to the west, but the storm has to remain weak to do that. And then for the majority of them, it turns it out into the open waters of the Atlantic, though, again, Bermuda, really keep a close watch on this one. It could definitely get too close for comfort. Now, we're going to run this forward a little bit further, and now we're going to get out to about 8.5 days. And I'm going to pull the storm track on this one as well. As you could see, in response to Invest 92L, or what would be Gabrielle, this particular system, if it develops, would then try to pull out and follow in that path. Well, let me show you what just one run ago was looking like. And if we jump back to the 6Z, as you could see, there are a couple lines that want to run off into the Caribbean, which is a concern. If we drop back even one more to the 0Z and run this forward, I think I broke it. I did. Let me see. Hold on. Yep, we broke it. Let me refresh the page. Let's see. We'll go back to the 6Z and back to the 0Z. Okay. Will it run now? There we go. As we can see, excuse me. As we can see with the 0Z, it had quite a few little dots potentially rolling in. So there is the potential there, but we don't have anything solid just yet. It's way down the line. So it's that time of year to where we really have to keep a monitor on just about everything. Now, if you guys remember from the spaghetti plots, Halves A was the big time westward outlier with Invest 92L. And I've got up here the simulated radar from Halves A just to kind of show exactly what it may look like if it were to take that more southerly and westward track. And if you notice right here, maybe a little bit of increase in shower and thunderstorm activity for our friends here into the Leeward Islands. So, folks, just keep a watch on this. Just because it is not, like focused in on your area, the overall envelope of moisture could allow for some heavier shower and thunderstorm activity to just rotate in on some of these bands. And just keep a monitor on it if you would there in the northeastern Caribbean. All right, yes, and James has pinned the comment. Tonight, well, today, September 15th, is the 8th anniversary of the creation of the Tropical Weather Threat Society. So, shout out to everybody, honestly. And we couldn't have done it without everybody's assistance. We've got a great team of amazing people who, all we do is just want people to be informed and no fatalities with the tropical cyclone landfall. We don't want your money. We don't want your fame. We don't want your fortune. Nothing. We just want everybody to be safe. That's it. That's legitimately it. We, out of our own pockets, we pay for all this stuff that we use, and just to further inform and to help educate, if possible. All right, what we have here, we've got our 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. This represents areas of spin approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface. Euro on the left, GFS on the right. If we run these forward, we will see that Invest 92L definitely begins to get some organization with it. We'll get the GFS back there. 5 of those frames did not want to load. So we're out on day 5 at this point in time. We do see some corroboration between the models here. We've got our Invest 92L. The GFS is back a little bit further to the west, or to the east, compared to the Euro. Wave. We've got another wave there and another wave there. So pretty much everybody's in agreement with one another. You've got our area of low pressure trothy system here to the north, high pressure over the southeastern United States, and south central U.S. as well. So everything is in pretty decent agreement when we get to day 5. If we run this forward and bring this out to day 7, now we start to see some pretty decent variance. We've got here with the GFS, what would be Gabrielle with Invest 92L is much further to the east and to the north than what we have with the Euro. Not only that, the Euro has a troughing feature that kind of comes back through here. The GFS has a much stronger low pressure just off the screen, which would basically be right here. This trough, on the other hand, comes down like that. And that has a significant factor in this because it has eroded that high back just a little bit, being right here, and allowed what would be Gabrielle to take a little bit more of an easterly path compared to what we have with the Euro, because the high pressure sits right here. And this stalled out, kind of decaying frontal boundary is not enough to keep this held back. And this still continues on a west-northwest or a northwest track. So we will now erase all that and we will run this forward. And as you can see now, the high pressure by day 8 will get here. We've got a little area of vorticity right here. Our high has come back, and now the Euro has a path to get out. And now it will begin to make its turn, as to where the GFS is already caught and gone. Now, as you can see, though, the Euro wants to keep the second wave here and the next wave there, but the GFS wants to creep it down here, and we've got another one there with a ridge of high pressure trying to build back in this way in as this exits. You could see the edge of the high right here at our 156 line, right in there, like so. Storms are not going to go through that. They have to go around it. So we're going to erase this and then go forward just a little bit more. And as you can see, that one wave did get loose here into the central portions of the Caribbean. It did make it up and under with a low pressure developing here. Obviously, there is Gabrielle right there, and then Gabrielle right there, with another wave here and another wave there. And if you really want to get technical, we've got another one there and a little piece of one right there. So, all in all, it's this what we got to watch for. Is do we get any of these tropical waves to stay somewhat weak and to be able to slip up underneath and get into the Caribbean? And then what will it do later on down the road? Well, just because we have areas of vorticity and spin does not mean that we're going to get tropical cyclone development. There are other factors involved with it, including the humidity levels in the atmosphere. On the top, we have our 500 millibar level, which is approximately 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. On the bottom, we have our 700 millibar level, which is approximately 2 miles above the surface. So the higher on the top, the lower on the bottom. We have the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. Our browns represent our dry air and dry air environments, and our greens and blues represent our moist air environments. So we are going to run this forward, and we are going to take it out to about day 5 so we can get our GFS graphics back. And you will note that we seen on our vorticity maps that we do have an area of development out here, GFS being a little bit stronger than what we have signal-wise from the Euro. Dry air still influencing it, and there will be some shear, but we will look at the shear model next. So we do have areas, a decent amount of dry air that would be present in and around the system. But if we don't have a lot of shear, we're not going to get a lot of dry air entrainment. As you could see with this one on the GFS, we definitely have the swirl of some of that dry air entraining into there. But there should be enough upper level divergence to allow, increasing upper level divergence as it gets away from the upper level low that we'll look at here in just a moment. It should allow for a more moist environment and convection to then begin to organize for sure. Now, we are going to run this out and get it out towards day 7. As you could see here with day 7, our dry air, yes, it still kind of exists on the Euro, but it is nothing like what it was 48 hours prior. The GFS, the drier air has shifted off to its southwest. Yes, there is a little bit here at the 500 millibar level, but overall the storm remains very potent. At the 700 millibar level, as we get down even further, the dry air it's there, but it's not very much at all on the GFS. And the Euro still has a little bit of dry air trying to cycle through. And as you could see here on the 500 millibar level, there is a considerable amount of, more dry air across the basin than what we see associated with the GFS, especially when we get into the Eastern Caribbean and Western Atlantic. So big difference as far as the humidity values and where that moist air pocket sits. And now we're going to run this out to day 10. And as you could see, we've got what would be Gabrielle probably turning post-tropical at this point. But Gabrielle is back here. But look at all this dry air that is going to be associated with Gabrielle right here. The next low pressure and that increased dry air on the Euro punching through. But the GFS has a little bit of a different angle. As you could see, the dry air comes out over portions of the Atlantic, not so much deep over the United States. So big time difference. As you could see, we were lacking the moisture, a big time moisture here into the central portions of the Gulf. The GFS basically wants to drown Florida. It's all in on just drowning Florida with tropical rains. Looking at our wind shear, again, Euro on the left, GFS on the right. This represents the winds that change with height between 40,000 feet and 5,000 feet. So that entire column, which is a lot, if you look up, you really can't tell the difference between 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 feet. It's virtually impossible to be able to tell, especially on clear sunny days. You could see nothing but blue skies. There's no way of telling what the winds are. And for us here, like perfect example here into the Panhandle of Florida, where we're located, we've got a good amount of upper level winds coming out of the northwest. But there's no clouds outside, so you couldn't tell that those winds even existed. That's what these models help to represent. And as we could see, and we run this forward, there is a little bit of an upper level low. Let's get our crayons out. There's a little bit of a low here. There's a low there. There's another low there. Again, the Euro wants to corroborate what we're looking at. And then Invest 92L being down here. So as we run this forward, this one dies on both models. That particular feature is eliminated. This one remains and is the big factor going forward. This low pressure to the left. So let's go ahead and erase this, and now we will start to take this forward. You will see how things progress. That one upper level low that we were talking about gets basically absorbed and eliminated. The other upper level low kind of continues to retreat back to the west. Now at this point you can see some added shear coming in like this with our storm right here. It is this increase in shear that is in question. As you could see here, we've got that low here. We don't really have that shear component here, but we get it here. So as this pulls forward and northward, how does this low pressure, and it's kind of degraded here, but how does this play a factor? All right, there is going to be some increased shear. Now, as I continue to roll this forward, we get out to day 7. I just to try to ease, the potential fears of our friends here in the United States. Look at this shear. Thou shalt not pass. It's not happening. Not happening at all. Even if this thing, if it's up here and it tries to develop, these winds will make sure that it continues to make that turn. Just not going to happen. And we will run it forward so everybody can then see kind of the results of what we're looking at. By this point in time, the system is well developed, out to sea, and we have a massive amount of shear coming across. So everything, at least as far as the shear is concerned, for U.S. interests, have us guarded from what we see over the next 10 days. which is a good thing. Now, I'm going to let this play while I check the, I want to check. Ah, thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right. If you guys got any questions, please, by all means, feel free, ask, fire away. I'll do my best here. But as you can see, we do have a little bit of dust that is coming off with some of these stronger waves, but some of these frontal boundaries are now starting to move in and starting to draw a lot of that dust. As you can see, getting into the latter part of the run, starting to draw that dust back up towards Europe. And that you've got a front sitting in here and that shear belt with the trough. You know, you could see all of the little lows and the high pressure. You get a high here that ends up pulling everything out. It's just a mess. You don't have that real strong high pressure anymore. Or that's a low pressure, I'm sorry. But you don't have that real strong Bermuda high anymore that is creating the very strong trade winds that are allowing this to loft up and then drive across the basin. You have to have the actual wave itself to pull the dust with it and just kind of entrain it and keep it lofted up. But otherwise than that, dust, once we get past about 40 degrees west, dust is not really much of a factor anymore. Now, I've got here, now that we have an invest designation to 92L, I've pulled up the ship's diagram here from Cyclonic WX, and we're going to kind of go over this real quick because I do want to show people that we have the potential for some shear increase over the next 72 hours. It's got probably about 72 hours, and then the shear is going to start to increase. As you could see, the storm is, as far as the ship's model is concerned, is forecast to increase. The mid-level humidity may come down a little bit, and this spot right here will be kind of interesting. About 5-6 days out, we're getting down below the 60% mark, so there could be a little bit of dry air entrainment there. But at the same time, this up here with our 200 millibar divergence, we're losing divergence and ended up with, as you can see with this zero line here, we end up with a moment of convergence to where the air is rushing in to a certain point and then sinking down and not rising up and spreading out. But right after that, we start to see the divergence begin to increase again. And this is associated with that upper level low and its interactions with it. So it'll be, like I said, it will be very, very interesting to see how this materializes over the next 72 hours as to what it can then do after that. So there's a lot of factors that go into this one, and it's quite interesting to me, honestly. Our quick look at our MJO, we do have it in our basin right now with that increase of upper level divergence and weaker wind shear in particular areas, and that has allowed for Invest 92L to increase its convective activity around the wave, the broad area of circulation in the overall wave pocket itself. Now, I want to show Earth Null here tonight to allow everybody to kind of see. We're down here at the surface, and this thing is huge. All right, this thing is an absolute broad mess right now. But if I come up in the 850, as you can see, it's starting to get a little bit more symmetry. It's not necessarily elongated as much as it is at the surface. If I come up to the 700 millibar level, it is trying to get an area of spin, but if you notice, we've got an increase in wind speed here at the 700 millibar level that is not as much at the 5. They're all moving in the same direction, and we've got a very amplified wave pocket right here wave axis associated with this. So it's definitely there, and completely different from what we were looking at with 91L. Now, we were mentioning our areas of low pressure. As you could see here, we'll come up to the 250 millibar level, and it really highlights where these areas of low pressure are. And this is the GFS model. We will run this forward, and you can see into the upper levels, that upper level divergence, the air spreading out in the upper levels. If we drop back down, you could see that the storm is definitely beginning to organize due to the fact that there is all of this upper level divergence ongoing. As we run this forward, you will see that kind of that upper level divergence kind of sticks with it, but then it's not, it kind of slips out from underneath it. As you could see, this little low pressure on its potential for absorption right here, this is kind of interfering with this upper level divergent area and this high pressure area that was developing over the storm. So if I run this forward a little bit more, as you could see, that upper level low is pretty much gone at that point. But if I come back down to the 850 millibar level, as you could see, we have a cohesive system at that point. So, all in all, it's watch, monitor, wait, see. Folks in the leewards, keep an eye on it. Folks in Bermuda, keep an eye on it. Just pretty much everybody in and around the southwestern Atlantic, let's just watch till we can guarantee this thing is going to be 100% exiting stage right and off to the history book for the 2025 season. All right. Now, as we could see here, we do have the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook. We will get a new one of these tomorrow. So what we see down here in the bottom box will then transition up to this box up here. We'll get a new one down here. What we will then see, potentially, is we're going to be watching very closely for this right here. Does this carry the 20% as it comes up? Does the EPAC grow in developmental percentages? Does the Western Caribbean or Gulf grow in developmental percentages? Does it remain the same? That is the big question, and we'll know tomorrow night here live. We'll definitely have that graphic. We show it every night. So now jumping out to the Eastern Pacific, we do have Tropical Storm Mario, but we also have another disturbance. This has currently a 30% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 70% chance of development over the next 7 days. This is on the heels of Tropical Storm Mario, as Mario still continues to try to make a run for the hurricane strength, but I don't think it's going to make it. Currently, it is located at 20.8 north, 114.4 west. It has a maximum sustained winds of 65 miles an hour, but it's moving northwest at 13 miles an hour. Minimum central pressure is down to 993 millibars. There are currently no coastal watches or warnings in effect, and there will not be for this system, and there will not be any hazards affecting land. If we take a look at the forecast cone, as you could see, it is forecast to remain a tropical storm and then dissipate into a post-tropical storm and then post-tropical depression, remnant low, the whole gambit. If we look at the forecaster's discussion, we are not going to go through, we're not going to read it. They are calling for this to be its peak intensity, and then within 36 hours becoming post-tropical, due to the fact that it will be moving into a much more stable air environment with cooler sea surface temperatures. By the time we get to 72 hours, it's gone and completely dissipated. If we look at the ensemble tracks out here for the Eastern Pacific, as we could see, and we run this forward to 10 days, it does look like that this area that we seen maybe potentially a signal for the Baja Peninsula has backed off today, which is a good sign. This is why we monitor the models every day. We watch for the trends. Nothing is ever set in stone. The trend right now is to back off potential threat to land, which is a great thing. It's always a great thing. The AI does not agree with landfall either. So, this is beginning to turn into something that is, you know, optimistic at this point for our friends over there on the Baja Peninsula. And the GEFS agrees also. Now, just to add in, we'll jump over here to the deep mind and we'll get here onto the Eastern Pacific. We will run it forward, and now even the deep mind has it much further off the coast of Mexico, much further off to the west, and does not give it the opportunity to bend back and threaten those folks there. Now, as we all know, we have been monitoring these areas out here into the Western Pacific, and we are, as you can see, we have Invest 98 and 99W. I really like using DeepMind out here because it does give us the opportunity to go global and wrap around. As you can see here, this area with 99W maybe not being expected to be very strong. But this one has the potential to be an absolute monster. And as we could see here, this is crazy. Monday, September 22nd, and this is just, the DeepMind model. None of the ensembles are saying that there wouldn't be development. There is development for pretty much all of them. 32 of those ensembles are calling for a Category 4. That's insane. So, all eyes out there to the Western Pacific, and we hope and pray that nobody gets impacted by this. Not anything too overly severe. I hope it stays weak and remains, though it doesn't look like it. I mean, anywhere as we get in towards the islands, it's 3-4, 3-4, 3-4. And if it doesn't hit land, then it becomes a much bigger problem out here into the South China Sea as well. So it's certainly something to keep a watch on. It's got my attention, full undivided attention. And last but not least, we cannot go away without mentioning our little extra spot out here. As you can see, no threat to land, no real significant intensity, although it might bring some stormy conditions up here into the Bering Sea for those fishermen, crab hunters, and stuff like that, and coastal regions of Alaska. And I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. We don't have Storm Dog tonight. I've got Storm Cat, and Storm Cat is under the desk sawing logs, and he is passed out. So he's mimicking his best impersonation of Storm Dog. All right. Oh, I guess I did it. I don't even, half the time when I'm drawing James, I don't even realize what I'm drawing. You guys, I know you guys just have an absolute blast with that. So that's all I've got for everybody here tonight. We will be back again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central here on Facebook and YouTube. We're going to go over all of the changes in the models to see if that trend for the Western Caribbean remains off the model, see if that exists or not. We'll check in on Invest 92L. We'll check in on the rest of the basins also. So, let's hope we remain with a, kind of uneventful season right now. I'm liking what we're looking at, but we still got quite of a ways to go. As you could see here, we're definitely not out of the woods. We need to get to about Halloween. When we get to about Halloween, then as far as like significant major impacts, we should be able to, hopefully, uh, take a breath and relax a little bit. But we've got a long way to go before Halloween. So 6 weeks. So, all right, folks, I will be back again tomorrow night. So we'll talk to you all then. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.